Oh, hello, boys and ghouls. It's your friend Luis. Some of you may know me from my drawings of monsters under the name Luisifer, and some of you may know me because of my band that also sings about monsters, entitled Teething. But enough about that, because the most important thing about me is my beautiful dog Bingo. Anyways, today's guest is Matt from Horror Boobs. Horror Boobs is his sort of brand, if you will, that supplies and delivers some of horror's finest VHS tapes. Not only VHS tapes, but he does screenings. He does all kinds of stuff. We also talk about Forbidden Planet, which is a store he's been managing in New York for the longest time. We also get into his thrash crossover punk hardcore band Eat Lead. We also get into his podcast Home Video Holocaust. We talk about all of that. What a great guy. We don't talk often, but when we do, we go deep. So always a pleasure. It was great having a New York friend on the podcast. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Matt from Horror Boobs, Eat Lead, Forbidden Planet, Home Video Holocaust. Adjust your tracking, and a very, very, very lengthy etc. Enjoy. What the fuck is up? It's been a while.
For real, dude. It's been, I haven't seen you since when you came here that last time.
Yeah,
when you came to the house.
And you were very wounded at the time. Do you recall?
Was it that long ago?
Yes.
Wow. Well, you've been out of the country for quite a bit.
I've been out of New York for it's been almost 10 years, dude.
Holy hell. So that means you were here 6 years ago, because that's when that happened.
That makes sense. What happened? What happened? Tell the story. Can you share the story of what happened?
Yeah. That's what we're getting into. Is this it? Are we doing it right now already?
Let's do it. We're doing it right now.
Okay, sure. Sounds good. Okay. Are you videotaping or are you just recording?
I'm doing both audio and video.
Okay, that's cool. I just want to know so that I don't, I already got my tissues out and I'm wiping my face, so I just won't do anything lewd in case this video ends up anywhere. Anything lewder than normal. So, yeah, 6 years ago you came, and it was because I had just gotten into a really bad car accident. I was playing a show in Philadelphia with my band at the time, and we were coming back. Actually, it's all my fault that we got into the accident. I mean, it's really the woman who hit us' fault, but it's my fault because when we were coming back from Philly, I wanted to meet up with King Fowley from the band Deceased, the death thrash, classic death thrash metal band. King Fowley's the singer, was the drummer, major force in that band. He's a huge force in the metal scene. He's also a huge horror fan and collector. And I was buying a bunch of his VHS tapes. So I made them stop at the Cracker Barrel to meet King. And we loaded up the trunk with all these tapes that I bought off of him because he was living in Philly at the time. And, if we didn't make that stop, we wouldn't have been in the position we were in. So that at one point in our ride home, we hit dead stop traffic, and this woman came barreling down the highway and smashed into the back of the car right where I was sitting. Our car went spinning out. She split off, hit like 3 other cars. So I was asked out. I was held up in the house for 2 months when that happened because I had broke my this bone in the bone that connects the spine to the pelvis. Was the bone that broke. So I couldn't go to work. I was in a lot of pain, and I was chilling out at home. And you came and visited, and you bestowed some really cool stuff, some records and some cassette tapes, which I have here still, obviously. I mean, it's not that...
Shit, that's... Sorry to interrupt, but that's right. I forgot I brought you some cassette tapes. Do you recall what I think I brought you some Spanish VHS tapes.
Oh, well, that's true. You did bring video. I was talking about your stuff.
Well. Okay. I
Yeah,
thought I had brought you some horror VHS.
you did, but you brought me this
Ah, nice. Yes.
and the record. One second. What's that? No, I'm cool. Yeah. Do you want me to do it in the office? All right, because there's no TV for you to enjoy. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna relocate, and we'll see. Tell me how good my
Reception and everything is...
yeah. Tell me if I change. You get a little walk through the apartment as we're doing that, and we're gonna go in the office.
Matt has many faces. First thing that comes to mind is Horror Boobs, where he supplies some of your finest horror needs on VHS. You supply and distribute them.
Thank you.
On the other hand, if I recall correctly, you're in the band Eat Lead.
That's right. That's my new band.
It's your new band. And if I recall correctly, Home Video Holocaust is your new baby.
New podcast that we've been toying with. I figured I'd get into the podcasting world, and that was not even like my choice. It was more of a friend of mine who, I mean, well, how do you want to break this down? You want to jump right into we can do the Home Video Holocaust right now. There's a lot
I got
to
it.
talk about.
I got it all figured out. So
Okay.
No worries. I just wanted to know if I was leaving anything out.
Oh man, I've got a lot of endless amounts of things going on at all times. You know what I mean? Obviously, not only these personal things that I have going on, I always like to mention that I've been working for Forbidden Planet in New York City for over 15 years now. It's like one of the staples of pop culture in the entire world, in my opinion. And
I can agree on that.
Thank you. And I've been a part of making that what it is for a long time. So I'm very proud of that, even though that's just my day job. But I still love talking about that too. And then I have a new project that I would love to mention that nobody really knows about.
Exclusive.
Yeah. So, and I actually talked to my partner about it earlier and asked, I said I was doing this podcast interview today, and I was wondering if it was cool if I, drop a little information about it, because really, we have not talked about this to anyone. So this is literally, going to be the first little inklings of what I've been doing. Yeah. But I mean, you want to talk about the podcast, since this is a podcast we're on, and this is
now you have to tell me what that thing is.
Oh, the new thing. You already want to know about the new thing.
Please. Well, actually, okay. No, let's do that later. Remind me. Okay.
Oh, I'm not going to let that slide. Don't worry.
Okay.
That's definitely, I'm excited. It's one of the things I've been working on I've been working on it for a little bit now. It's not like it's one of those things where it's like I've been putting in the work for the last year or so, and it's getting ready to launch. So
awesome. 5 minutes in, and I'm already super excited. You're doing great, Matt.
Thanks.
So
man.
my first question, which I'd love to converse with you about.
Okay.
Food. Let's talk about food. Sweet or salty?
Sweet or salty? Oh man, you've got the wrong guy, because I'm a junk food junkie. I'm really bad with that stuff, and I've been trying to be better about it, but it's not working. And I am a big fan of combining both things. I'll put a piece of chocolate and a pretzel in my mouth at the same time, or potato chips and candy. I mix it all. It's pretty gross to watch me eat when I've got the munchies pretty strong. I go hard. I go deep into it. And it's that time of year, man. It's Halloween. So I already got 2 giant bags of Halloween candy for Halloween, and I'm already done with one half of one bag. And we'll see if I'm going to have to buy more before we give out candy to the trick-or-treaters. And then also, you know, who knows what's going to happen this Halloween. I'm going to stand out on the stoop and have candy like I do every year, but I don't know if anybody's going to come through, because we're in this weird situation where people are not supposed to be really interacting, and are parents going to let their kids come and take candy from strangers in a pandemic where we're possibly spreading disease? I mean, this is like the saddest, for me, this is the saddest thing right now, because like that's one of the things I look forward to the most, is giving out candy on Halloween. Especially because the more the years go on, I notice less and less people are doing that. So it's important for me to keep that up.
That, you know what? Worst comes to worst, is make sure you eat all the fucking candy.
Well, that's it. That is the worst thing that could possibly happen, and the best thing, obviously, if they don't come. But I mean, I'll tell you this: I always buy way too much candy, and I always have tons left over anyway. So
dude, I'm so sorry. I love your answer, because you're my 5th podcast, and usually people give healthy, salty answers, and you're just like, my favorite food is trick-or-treat candy, dude.
Yeah, no way, man. I'm bad. I am not good at this. I don't know. During the last year, I have changed a little bit of how I've eaten. Up until the last year, I never ate vegetables, ever. And then I just started eating vegetables within the last year. And I'm surprised at which ones I'm eating, because they're notoriously the ones that are hated the most, like Brussels sprouts. I love Brussels sprouts. I'm blown away. I know it's probably because I get them from this place, Saragina in Brooklyn, that's like makes them like crispy, and they're covered in like, caramelized stuff. So it's like,
Nice.
it's like taking a vegetable and covering it in candy.
Okay.
But it's still, I'm still eating Brussels sprouts. That's
true.
Something I never thought I would do in my life. I eat broccoli. I've had some asparagus. It's pretty sad when you can name everything that you have.
Dude, but I must say, eating vegetables in New York isn't the easiest assignment. I lived in New York for 6 years, and I gained a lot of weight. It's not the easiest task, staying healthy.
Yeah. Speaking of which, can you give me 1 second? Because I left my bagel in the other room. Do you mind if
For
I
sure,
grab that? Okay. I got my bagel. Speaking of New York, it's typical New Yorker stuff. I'm eating my bagel. It's 2:00 and I'm having my breakfast. So I've got my bagel and my coffee here. So
any Brussels sprouts in your bagel?
I wish. I really wish, man. You'd be, man.
Dude, sorry, before I interrupt, I forgot to say happy birthday, dude.
Oh, thank you, dude. I appreciate that. Yeah, I woke up this morning and it was my birthday. And I woke already. It's been a day. I'll tell you that. I was at my girlfriend's, and she has 2 cats, and one of them was sleeping in the bed next to me. And it seemed like it got fixated on something visually. And then my girlfriend went to pet him. He jumped up like all freaked out. He cut my neck open. He like clawed me and like Halloween catted and like jumped out of the bed, like hopped, and then like was freaked for like an hour. I mean, he's still freaked. We left and he was acting all weird. So we were saying, do you think it was a ghost? Because cats sometimes have this sixth sense that we don't have for those type of things.
Are you and the cat okay?
I'm okay. It was just a little flesh wound. The cat, I don't know. He's probably, now he's home alone. He's probably freaked the hell out, man.
With a ghost.
With a ghost. Do you believe in ghosts?
I'd say I believe in in ghosts and spirits and otherworldly things. What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to be the type of people that we are, surrounded by all this magic and appreciative of these magical things without thinking some of it is possible. You know, I'll tell you. Well, I'll tell you something that's interesting, because hopefully my mom will never listen to this. My dad died not that long ago.
Very sorry to hear that.
It's okay. You know, we are all gonna die eventually, unfortunately. But he passed away about not this past July, the 4th of July before that. And my mom was getting these weird phone calls all hours of the night, all during the day, from a block number. What do they call that? From a hidden number or something, when it comes up. And it
like an anonymous number?
Yeah, it says unavailable. It won't even, the number doesn't even come up. So she was getting it in her house and on her cell phone. So she's old, so she has a landline still.
Mm-hmm.
So both phones were getting these calls, and she'd answer and nothing, or it's just noises on the other line, is what she was saying. And I was like, okay, well, that's crazy. And she didn't say anything about it. She didn't say what I'm going to say about it, obviously. Okay. But I know she was thinking something was freaky, because she called the phone company, both the cell phone and the landline, told them, don't let block numbers call. Like, just, you know, if a block number, an anonymous or unavailable number calls, just block it so that it can't reach. So then I started getting them on my phone. And when you answer the phone, I'm telling you, it was some scary shit. It sounded like, you know, it sounded like you're sending a fax or something like that, but not that noise. Something weirder and more otherworldly. So, you know, I was saying maybe it was my dad calling from the grave. You know,
wow.
Yeah, trying to reach both of us somehow.
Dude, 15 minutes in and we already get a car accident story and 2 ghost stories.
And we're not even talking about the regular bullshit that we were expecting.
Okay, so let's just make sure maybe your mom doesn't listen to this.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, I haven't said it. She's not going to listen to this. Don't worry about it. I mean, she loves me, no doubt about it. But I doubt she's going to make the effort to listen. She won't figure out how it works. That's the end of the story. She won't know how to actually work the computer good enough to hear the podcast.
So Matt, do you recall how we first met, when we met?
I was thinking about that. First major interactions was at the Slime City Massacre signing. Hold on.
Okay, yeah, we got cut off for a second.
You got me? You hear me?
Yeah, relocation, correct. Okay, we're good.
One of the first times I do remember, like, having a long interaction with you was at the Slime City Massacre signing at Forbidden Planet, where you interviewed me for a project that you were working on, and it was about people's favorite horror movies, and I had such a good time doing that with you. That's why I was really excited about doing this interview, like, you know, because that was so much fun. You really just, like, let me go, and you're egging me on in ways that was a lot of fun. And we covered 10 of my favorite obscure horror movies?
Obscure horror movies.
Yeah. So, and at the time, you know, that was that was quite some time ago. It's funny how popular some of those movies have gotten in the last, whatever, was that 13 years ago, maybe 14 years ago?
Maybe not that long, maybe 10 years ago, but you're totally right. A lot of those movies have gotten, like, a great cult status, have gotten great re-releases on Blu Ray, etc. For example, I don't want to dig deep into this quite yet, but for example, Psychos in Love.
Forget about it, man. That movie, I was so lucky. Now I'm friends with those guys. I don't remember if I was friends with those guys back then. Probably not. But now, like, Carmen, the star of that movie, and Gorman, like, they're friends. Like, I can totally, like, call them up and pester
Shoot the
them.
shit.
Yeah, and I love, I love those guys. Carmen, I love him more than anything. He's one of the greatest guys ever. He's so much fun. He's a great man. I love him, and he's just so funny in real life, just like in the movie. It's like he's another one of those guys, like James Lorenz from
Hmm.
Frankenhooker and Trash and stuff, who I became friends with too recently, where they're not acting. You know what I mean? These are them. Those they are that funny in real life. They're that wild and crazy. So yeah, Psychos in Love, and I was lucky enough to write the liner notes for the Vinegar Syndrome Blu Ray release.
That's right. I recall reading that, and I was happily surprised to see that, because
Thank you, man.
I was lucky enough to pick up a copy of that. It's not that easy to get all the way here in Spain, but
I bet. Yeah, I know, man. I wonder about that, like how how well releases are distributed, across the country and stuff like that, or across the world, the globe, because there's tons of stuff that I always hear about coming out in different countries that I want, you know what I mean? And I was like, where the hell do I get it,
exactly. For the most part, I need to focus on European stuff, like, for example, like Arrow Video,
Oh, yeah.
or stuff like, I can't collect the Shout Factory releases or Vinegar Syndrome. Once in a while I'll spoil myself and, like, order something. Just shipping is pretty insane, but
Oh yeah, I can only imagine, dude. And that's the other thing. Arrow now. See, it's funny, like, whatever. When I first met you, and even probably the last time you came at my house, I came to my place, I was probably like, I'm only VHS, but now I am like obsessed with Blu Ray.
oh, wow, I thought
Uh,
you were still true to the grave, like VHS head.
no, I love Blu Ray. I'm so insanely. This is my little Blu Ray shelves.
Excellent.
Yeah, I got,
Excellent.
so I'm rocking all these Blu-ray shelves now. It's like I've got my DVDs mixed in with certain companies. But yeah, I see the arrows right
Excellent.
right here. So we have different releases, you guys and us, like, as far as Arrow stuff. I was so happy when Arrow and Grindhouse were the companies that made me.
Yeah, you got
Okay,
cut off talking about Grindhouse and Arrow.
because I was moving the fucking I'm sorry. I don't want to curse, okay? Um
You can curse, but if
I
it's a
know.
personal choice, okay.
I'll try not to, so I can sound. So if my mom does listen,
Okay.
she's only freaked out about me talking about my dead dad and not me cursing. Um, no, I got the Blu-ray player because Grindhouse released those Duke Mitchell movies,
Hmm.
Gone with the Pope and The Executioner, or Mafia Massacre style. I think they released it under. Um, and I love those. So I was like, that was it. When those came out, I was like, I guess I got to get a Blu-ray player now. And then Arrow released something that I wanted to, that hadn't come out on any other format, I think, that I can't remember what it is right now. But yeah, once these companies started releasing things that I was like, this is the only way I can get it, I guess I'm in now. And now it's like VHS. The Blu-rays, they have killer covers, like, you know what I mean? It doesn't look cheap and generic like the DVDs. It's treated with respect like tapes were. Um, I'm just I get so hyped when something's coming out on Blu that I'm excited about.
And especially, just like, I have as much of a good time watching these movies on Blu-ray. I maybe I enjoy even more the extra features or the audio commentaries.
I know, dude, because that's the thing. For the stuff that it's so weird, because now the Blu-ray market, it's such like a collector's market. And it's really the people that buying it are the people that would buy VHS stuff, people that want to own physical media, that want to have something cool, but they pack it out in such a way. It's like, so if you're gonna buy a Blu-ray, obviously you're gonna want to get either something that's never been released before. That's what a lot of these companies are going for.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're gonna buy something for the 5th time, it's got to be packed out with stuff that you've never seen before. It's got to have new commentaries. It's got to have special features. It's got to be exciting. I mean, like, obviously, I haven't gotten it yet, but it's sitting at, because I took the week off of work. But at the store, sitting for me is that new Friday the 13th box set.
Oh, wow.
I don't even love the Friday the 13th movies that much. I mean, they're classic. They're important, I guess. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Slashers have never been my thing, as you know, like from that interview you did with me. Not a single slasher. Psychos in Love, I guess you can consider a slasher, but it's totally, turned on its head. It's a comedy, weirdo. I like very weird stuff, and of course, a sense of humor is important in this type of stuff for me. That's what I appreciate the most.
Because sorry to interrupt, my recollection is when I realized you were only into VHS, I remember, because every time I'd go to Forbidden Planet, I'd talk to you for a bit, and I remember William Lustig was releasing on Blue Underground the upgrade for Maniac with like all of these extra features. So I was like,
yeah,
yo, dude, are you excited about this release? You're like, nope, strictly VHS, dude.
Well, you know what's so funny? He actually released it again. Actually, you know what? William Lustig's released Maniac like 5 times in the last 3 years. But anyway, he just released the 4K now. I haven't gotten into 4K. I'm not sure even what that is. I think you need a special TV. To be straight up with you, I was watching Blu-rays on a tube TV for a while. Like I wasn't even getting the full Blu-ray kind of concept. It was really about the special features and the releases that you couldn't get any other way. So to the point that, do you know who Mike Hunchback is?
I do not know
that guy. He's a musician. He's played in bands, like he played in a band called Hunchback for many years. He played in the Nightbirds. Right now he's playing in Screeching Weasel. He produced Boyle Angels, the Mike Diana documentary. Do you know Mike Diana?
Yes. Excellent. Yeah. I wanted to get into that with you later.
Amazing.
I jotted down.
Yeah.
Amazing documentary, dude.
Yeah, so good, dude. So Mike is like one of my best friends, and he'd come over the house all the time. And he was so sick of watching Blu-rays on the tube TV that he brought a flat screen to my house for me, just so we could watch movies the right way with the Blu-rays. Was
that a gift?
It was, yeah. I mean, he, it's not like he went out and bought me it. Not that I'm not grateful. He was helping somebody move, and they gave him a flat screen because they didn't need it, and he just brought it right to my house because he knew I didn't have one. And we watch movies here all the time, and he was sick of watching the movies on the tube TV, the Blu-rays. So I mean, it was literally because of special features and special releases that I was buying Blu-ray, and now I can actually appreciate the quality of it. So I was saying 4K, I don't even know. But to circle back, William Lustig released a 4K scan of Maniac, not a 4K Blu-ray, which they just released recently, but I think last year or the year before. And I was able to get him into the store to do an event, and it was great. And I had met him, in passing at screenings or whatever, but I never got to sit down and really have a moment with Bill. And we did at this event. It was great. He was one of the kindest, sweetest guys. He had some great stories, total New York attitude. Loved it. He was such a pleasure to have at the store. And it was for that Maniac 4K Blu-ray release, which of course I have,
Awesome.
Yeah. But Maniac, honestly, I know I'm going to get flack. I don't love it. I think Vigilante is a much better movie. his movie with Robert Forster,
I'm very much aware of this movie. I actually
yeah.
have the Blue Underground, but I never got to watching it. But I
Oh,
might have to.
bump it up, man. I think that's a great. I bump that on the top tier of your watch list.
Okay.
I think it's really good. It's such a fun. I use fun loosely when I talk about this stuff, but it's a great entertaining flick. And I mean, Maniac is a classic. You know, you can't go wrong with it. But if I had to pick one Lustig movie to bring to the desert island, I would go with Vigilante.
Okay, I'm definitely putting it on the top of my DVD list.
They just announced on one of these 4K releases, the
Oh.
actual 4K. So I'm gonna get it, even though I don't have the 4K TV or the 4K player. I'm still gonna get it, just in case in the future I end up going there.
I'm right there with you. I haven't delved into 4K yet. I still don't really know what it is yet. I don't know if I need, as you said, a special TV
Yeah.
and so forth. Matt, I do want to ask you how, I don't want to get too cliche on this, but I want to ask you how COVID has affected you, your life. I know it's affected Forbidden Planet and so on.
No, I mean, it's important to talk about it, right? It's a big thing that's going on. To not talk about it would be ridiculous. Luckily, I didn't get it. I've gotten a couple of tests. I had gotten the antibody test, all that type of stuff, all negative. I've been wearing my mask. I've been social distancing. We quarantined. They shut the city down. They shut all the non-essential businesses down, like Forbidden Planet. Scared me, man. Like, I didn't know what was up. Like, one day I had a job and the next day I didn't. It was that. It came to that. It was like we were making jokes. We were making jokes about it. We're like, "What is this? Is this serious?" To think about it, like, seriously, how quick it turned. There was people making, like, Corona beer memes. There was like people sharing information about how many people are dying every day. It switched so fast from a joke to a real scary reality. Yeah, I mean, I used the time. Once we got past the first initial couple weeks of it, when everything was shut down, I had a lot of faith that everything would go, not to say everything would go back to normal, but everything is going to be okay. That Forbidden Planet is an institution. We're not like, I mean, not that these places aren't important, but we're not like a bodega. We're not like, we're not a chain store where the head of the company could just be like, well, close them down. Who cares? You know what I mean? We'll figure it out. We're an independent business owned by independent people who fought through this situation to be able to make sure that we stay open, because we did it. The employees, not just the owners, not just the bosses, the employees, man, we fought tooth and nail, behind the scenes to keep the store open and to keep the essence and the importance of these type of stores in New York City alive. Because New York City, since you left 10 years ago, and quite some time before that too, has been going down the tubes, man. Like, all my favorite places are gone. All the clubs I would go to, all the stores. The funny thing is that 20 years ago, neighborhoods like Williamsburg were getting gentrified, and in were coming these independent, hipster-owned shops where it'd be like, here's our artisanal mayo shop, and here's our overpriced thrift store, and they wore tight skinny jeans and they had mustaches that were curled up, and we all made fun of them. But now all of that got wiped out by the yuppies, and now it's banks and Starbucks and corporate like Whole Foods. Like, even so, the places that the people that we were making fun of, they did pave the way for the yuppies that now made the places all sterilized. Like, but I'd even take those guys now over the corporate stuff. So all, CBGB's closed, and Coney Island High closed, and the Continental closed, and all my favorite clubs closed, and then even stores like corporatized versions of Forbidden Planet, like the Virgin Megastore and Tower Records, which were great. You know what I mean? They're, they were corporate entities, but you could still get crazy stuff there. They still stocked amazing, movies. Tower Records, forget about it. Amazing selection there. Even Virgin Megastore had a great selection. Those places are gone. Even corporate versions of Forbidden Planet couldn't make it through, but Forbidden Planet has survived through all of this, and we're going to keep surviving. There's something about the fact that we have that independent attitude. Nobody can tell us what to do. You can, we can tell you whatever we want, and we can sell you whatever we want, because no one's going to tell us not to. There's nobody saying we can't stock a certain thing. If we have faith in it, we can do it. So, it's an important part of New York City, in my opinion. It's been there since 1981. It's as old as I am, and I don't think we're going anywhere, because people are always going to stand up for us, support us, and make sure that we don't lose that character that New York City, is known for. Where are you going to go? And like, you can't go into Starbucks and see a guy like me that's going to say whatever he feels like to you, because he can.
For the listeners, can you tell people what exactly is your role?
Well, okay. I mean, all right. I'm technically a manager. That's my title. But I've done so much, like, it's like one of the things where it's like we all have many roles, and a title means nothing. Yeah, I'm a manager. Yeah, I do managerial duties, like make sure that people aren't screwing around. But so what I do is I'm an event coordinator. I book events like the thing I mentioned with William Lustig, and the Slime City Massacre event, which is 10 years. It's a little over 10 years ago, because I do remember, I think Debbie Rochon just posted something about it being like, 10 years ago. So you're right. That was about 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago. So, and that was one of the first ones that I was so hyped on doing. I had done other ones. I had done other little events there before with comic book artists, and I brought Trauma in for the first time there, and had Lloyd there and all that. But doing Slime City Massacre was huge for me, because Slime City is one of my faves. I love the original Slime City, and I'd never met Greg Lamberson before, and it was so cool. And that fell in my lap. Greg called the store and was like, wanted to see if we would do an event. I guess he saw probably some of the other event stuff that we were doing, or somebody might have tipped him off. I can't remember. I feel like maybe Paige Davis from Alternative Cinema might have had something to do with this. But it was crazy. He calls the store and he's like, "Hey, this is Greg Lamberson, director of Slime City. I'm wondering," and I said, "Greg, I'm the only person that would have answered the phone who would have any idea who you are." And I'm blown away. This is amazing. I'm a huge fan. So, it's a little bit of a knock to him. I'm not trying to be mean, but it's the truth. You know what I mean? And even Slime City has gotten a huge fan base since then,
For sure. For me, one of the strongest aspects of Forbidden Planet have been the events, and that's always been under your wing, just because the events go so aligned with my taste, your taste.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we always do comic book stuff, but I figured if we have this, I've heard stories about Forbidden Planet in the 80s. I mean, I shopped there since the 80s, but I was a little kid. My parents would take me there, and I would beg them to bring me to Forbidden Planet when I was a little kid. But, I didn't go to any events there as a little kid. But in the 80s, there's stories about Clive Barker and, Robert Englund having lines around the block. And even when Greg came to the store and, we did that event, he told me, "Hey, when the first Slime City came out, there was a little poster in the window at Forbidden Planet to promote it. And it's such a great thing for me to be able to continue that legacy, because it seemed like it didn't have that when I got there for many years. I feel like there was nobody there that had the passion for this stuff, and that's one of the things that I really try to push at the store with the employees, because it worked for me. I came in, I had a passion for this stuff, and I used the platform of Forbidden Planet for me to be able to celebrate these things that I loved, like obscure movies. So like with some of the other stuff I do is I built the media section there, which has a huge selection of Blu-rays and DVDs that you wouldn't even be able to get anywhere. Like, you can't go into a store in New York City. There's not a single store in New York City that you could walk into and buy a copy of Slime City. I can guarantee you that. You're not going to go into any store and buy Psychos in Love. You're not going to buy, Going Hog Wild anywhere in New York. There's these movies that I always make sure to carry. And yeah, my thing is, we were lucky. We had Kim's Video.
Exactly. That's because the last time I was at New York, Kim's Video was still around.
Yeah, we were lucky people. We grew up in a world with Kim's Video and Tower Records that had great selections, but Kim's was the one. Kim's, you can go into and discover anything. That's where I discovered a lot of this stuff I love. And now that Kim's is gone, I need to fill that gap. There's got to be a way where some kid who's 17 years old, who is coming from Idaho to NYU to be a film student, who only knows whatever Batman Begins and whatever the hell he knows from the mainstream and Saw, and wants to go and look at movies at a store and then find Blood Feast. You know what I mean? There's got to be a place where a kid could be exposed to this stuff. And I'm proud that I'm able to fulfill that service, and I see it all the time. I see young college kids go look at those DVD shelves and lose their minds. And not even, people ask me, are these video games? Because they have no idea what these are. They've never heard of any of these titles. So it makes me happy to be able to supply that. So yeah, I run the media section there. I run the apparel. I process the shipments and come up with value to variant comics, like stuff that's not even having to do with my personal love of cult cinema. But
and anyone that goes to Forbidden Planet can see exactly what you've curated.
Oh yeah,
just the shirt selection, even the book selection.
Yeah,
dude, you hooked me up. Sorry to interrupt. I'm just gonna. No, I'm gonna.
If you don't interrupt, I'll keep talking.
I'm gonna squeeze in a story that warmed my heart. My last day in New York, I went to hit up my favorite spots in New York before I left for good. I went to hit up my favorite restaurants, my favorite stores. I went to Forbidden Planet. You were there. I went to say bye, and you hooked me up with Destroy Movies, the book, and Dark Stars Rising. You were, I remember you told me, you're like, dude, it was New Year's, and I read Dark Stars Rising from start to finish. I couldn't put it down.
That's an amazing book, man.
Same thing.
I really, yeah, that's a great book. Shade Group is an interesting character. He's a New York City weirdo like the rest of us, and that book is amazing. Like, he is a great interviewer. Like, he knows what to do. I mean, I host screenings, and I do events where I bring out directors, or people ask me to host a screening at their theater or their events, and I host Q&As with people. And if Shade's in the crowd, I know that I'm going to get a good question. So I will always defer to him when I open up to the audience. I'll always make sure that Shade gets his question in, because he's great, man. He's a great interviewer. That book is amazing. There's so many cool people, you know, that are in that book that it's super inspirational too, man. It's both sides of the book. The fact that he's doing these interviews, and you know, they're interviews he's done since he was like, you know, young until now, you know, spans many years. And it just shows how much he, you know, it's an inspiration that someone could be just a super fan like us, you know what I mean? That can, a friend of mine once said this to me, and I was like, wow, that's the smartest way to go about this. It's like, because a lot of people think they're important when they're not. And maybe they are, or whatever, but to have that kind of attitude where you think you're the shit just because you're, you know, writing about movies or you interview people or whatever, it's like, it's kind of bullshit. I think it's kind of stupid. I mean, it's cool. And my friend John Tarani, he said, he was ripping on somebody, and he's a writer too, man. He's written articles and produced movies and stuff. And he just was like, listen, I don't go around saying I'm this, that, or the other thing. I'm just a super fan, and I do this because, you know, he loves it. And I was like, you know, that's the greatest attitude to have about this. I'm a super fan, and I'm lucky enough to have, you know, made friends with people that have made art that inspired me. And I've been able to continue to, you know, celebrate their work and spread it to other people, you know?
For sure. I was talking about this topic with my friend Gabriel, where we were saying, I think the whole goal is we're just trying to make 14-year-old us have goosebumps or proud.
Yeah,
that's it. Super
exactly.
fan, you know?
Yeah, and I love that fact. Yeah. Oh, forget about it. If I went back, I mean, as a teenager, my all-time favorite movie was, and still is to this day, my all-time favorite movie. But a movie that I like have been referencing and having fun with for day one is Blood Diner. And I don't know what it's 5 years ago, I had gotten the chance to bring Jackie to do a screening and host a Q&A with Jackie Kong at the Alamo Drafthouse when they first opened in Brooklyn. And I got to meet her for the first time ever. And I had tried to contact her before, and I had gotten nothing. And Blood Diner was obscure. Like, it was not on any format. And then it ended up getting dumped on an 8-movie DVD set, which was totally disrespectful in my opinion. It was a great DVD set, a lot of good movies on it, but
I totally get what you're saying, of course.
But then it finally came out on Blu Ray just a couple years ago, and Jackie was out promoting it. She was like, you know, she made a deal with the people that were restoring it and putting it on a Blu Ray that if, you know, that she would get to tour with it and do like crazy party screenings. And I was able to be a part of the one in New York, and I hosted the Q&A, and I got to meet Jackie. And now we are real friends. Like, it blows my mind. She'll call me just to see how I'm doing. You know, she sent me a great birthday message. You know, last time I was in LA, we went out, had a wonderful night together. She's a real friend that I love her. She's great. She's amazing. You know,
that's amazing. So that's
and to tell myself when I was a teenager that like I was going to be friends with her, like, you know, this woman who made this insane movie that, forget it. When I first saw that movie, I didn't even know Jackie was a woman. Jackie sounds like a man's name. When I was a teenager, I had no idea until I put some more research in. You know, I had no idea it was a woman. But
and to think, and for 14-year-old Matt to think she sent you a beautiful birthday message today.
Oh, forget about it. I would lose my mind, you know, because that instantly became one of my favorite movies, and it is now officially what I always say as my favorite movie. I'm sure I mentioned that in my interview with you.
You did, and it's amazing. It's because we're both older dudes now. We're in our mid-30s, I guess.
Well, I'm 39 today.
Okay.
I'm on the cusp of my early 40s, which sounds younger.
Wow. So just seeing how these obscure movies have taken a life of its own, from Blood Fleece going from being on a 8-disc DVD pack to
Yeah.
having a cult status.
Yeah, now now it's like I'm blown away by how many people even know that movie. It's gotten, being it was one of the launch titles of the new Vestron Video Blu Ray line. It was that and Chopping Mall, and Chopping Mall is like huge, like super. It's been on DVD. Jim Wynorski's it's probably his most famous movie. That's a cult movie that people know, Chopping Mall, just on name alone.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they haven't seen it. So to think that Blood Diner, which was such an obscure one, was considered good enough to be one of the launch titles on that new Blu-ray line, that was cool. It's
This is a
great.
perfect segue for me to ask you, how and when did you get into horror movies? How did you fall in love with the genre?
I don't know, man. That's a weird question. I know that's like it's a pretty stereotypical question, no offense, that
Mm-hmm.
I've been asked before, and I always have a hard time answering because I don't really have a really great answer like a lot of people do.
I need to defend my answer because you're a New Yorker. So
Yeah.
your story is probably cooler than most.
No, it's not. I mean, just being like, how do I get in? What made me obsessed with it, or what got me into it in the first place? I mean, like a lot of things. My dad showed me movies when I was a kid.
Okay.
Like I remember watching Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, actually, before I ever saw Frankenstein. I remember watching Bride of Frankenstein on TV with my dad, and just being blown away, just being like, this is so cool. Like this is, because it's weird. Like I have this conversation with a lot of people about growing up, people that are a little older than me, people that are a little younger than me, that a lot of people were raised on these like very homoerotic cartoons, like He-Man and no offense, nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying it's like these naked muscle men, like Thundercats and stuff like that, and I never took to that. And these, or GI Joe, these super manly things, like, so. And it's funny because it's like, here I am saying it's homoerotic, and it's like, but they're like these super manly things in a way, but with a weird undertone that I just, and I liked. When I grew up, I watched, like I Love Lucy and The Three Stooges and I Dream of Jeannie and Gilligan's Island. Like I didn't really get into that like 80s cartoon stuff that was
Okay.
so popular. I mean, I remember waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning to watch Ultraman. Um, but that was the stuff I liked. I love these old reruns, these like the Munsters, not so much the Addams Family. I don't know why. Didn't resonate with me. They're rich, I guess. That's the, you know
Okay.
what I mean? I'm a Munsters guy. I'm not an
Yeah.
Addams Family. But also growing up in New York, being a Munsters fan, Grandpa Munster, Al Lewis, had a very New York connection. He had a restaurant in New York called Grandpa's that my parents would take me to as a kid, and Grandpa was there, and he would come to your table and sit with you and talk with you. So like, I mean, and that solidified as a kid part of my love of the Munsters and stuff like that. And that is, I think, part of why I like this, um maybe stuff that's a little dated
Mm-hmm.
and stuff that's a little weirder and not your mainstream stuff. It's just like the way I grew up watching stuff that was already dated and offbeat, um,
So
as a
would you say
kid.
your dad had a big influence on you?
I, him and my sister loved horror movies way more than I did as a kid. Like they watched like the more like gory stuff. Like I remember them watching, I think, Hellraisers and Subspecies and stuff like that when I was a kid. And I wasn't into that type of stuff, but I did watch my dad would sit me down and watch like other stuff that was a little offbeat. Like, I definitely watched a lot of the Universal stuff with him. And I remember him making me watch Repo Man,
Oh,
which
wow.
blew my mind. I mean, that's one of my favorite movies of all time. And like, it's such a weirdo offbeat movie. To see something like, I mean, that's like Repo Man's like such a defining moment for me. It's a crazy sci-fi movie. It's probably the first time I ever heard Suicidal Tendencies or Circle Jerks or Black Flag or all of my favorite bands. To think that I heard all these bands as a kid before I really discovered them, and then they became my favorites. So this, I pinpoint Repo Man as the first time I ever heard these things that became my favorites. And maybe that's also part of why it's one of my favorite. It has a really great punk aesthetic, probably part of why I became punk, So yeah, I mean, watching movies with, having my dad being open to watching weird stuff with me was definitely an influence. But I mean, why did I become obsessed with it? Evil Dead. I saw Evil Dead. That's literally it. You know what I mean? It's like when I saw, when I finally saw Evil Dead, my life was changed. It's as simple as that. I liked horror movies and I loved weird stuff. I loved a lot of all the time. Here in New York, you were lucky you got the Sunday afternoon movie. I always reference that. I always reference the late late movie, and we got to see lots of cool weird. I remember watching like Night of the Creeps on TV. Lots of movies that you would see on TV that were horror movies that I loved. But I remember renting Evil Dead. But actually, the first one I ever saw was Army of Darkness. So that was what, 1991 or 1990 or something like that.
1992.
92.
I'm
Okay,
not sure actually.
Yeah, it's somewhere between. As a super fan, I feel like such an asshole right now. But so I was born in 81. It comes out in 1992, so I'm 11 years old. And I see Army of Darkness, and it changed my life. You know what I mean? It's like that character is so cool. And then, of course, I saw that, and then I had to see Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. And when I saw Evil Dead, that was it. I mean, Army of Darkness was amazing, but it's still in the realm of things that like my dad was showing me, like Sinbad and stuff like that with stop motion, that it's a big homage to. And that's why that kind of fell in line where it's like, okay, this makes sense. And I remember as soon as it was over, my dad was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. So there was, because I think it was rated R, and there was like, he was like, well, there was like a little nudity. And I was like, there was no nudity in that movie. I was like, even then I was like, pinpointed it. I was like, he's like, no, there's like these women that run across the screen, and I was like, no, they're like covered a little. You don't see a single nipple. And this is like I'm already aware of this at 11 years old, this thing that be part of my life later on being like, well, no, there's actually no nudity in that movie.
No nipples, Dad.
No nipples. So that's, a little side boob doesn't count. But I had to see Evil Dead, and that changed my life, man. Those movies are so important. And I talk about it all the time. And I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you something that's interesting. I tell this to a lot of people, and I'm going to say it to you.
Please do.
People are going to think I'm an asshole. But, my dad died on July 4th. I said that. I didn't cry. I don't cry. But I went to Comic-Con, and I saw the panel for Ash versus Evil Dead when they announced that series, and they surprised us and showed the first episode, and I cried. I was so moved at this and I'm sitting there by myself next to like some 500-pound Comic-Con schlub, and I'm crying my eyes out because I'm having such an amazing time and such an experience I never thought I would be able to have again. Like I saw the Evil Dead remake in the theaters, and I had a good time, and I like it a lot more than a lot of people will probably say they did. But watching, Bruce Campbell play Ash, and it was so good, so funny, and so gory. I literally lost it. I cried like a kid, man, because I was so moved by it.
That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that story.
No, thank you, man. It makes me sound kind of like a psychopath, but at the same time, it's true, man. It's like those movies were so important to me that to get to experience it again for the first time is moving, man.
Dude. So yeah, we'll definitely make sure your mom doesn't hear this. But
No, she knows I didn't cry.
dude, let's fast forward a bit
Okay.
and get into what I think is your baby, which is horror boobs.
Horror boobs, yeah. So
So
horror.
sorry, yeah, go ahead.
No,
I just want to know that how it was born, and I want to talk about the awesome packaging for feeders. I want to talk about the book. I want to talk about
cool.
New York. So
Cool. I mean, yeah, I'll do a quick synopsis. There's plenty of places where you can read about the history of horror boobs now. It's been around for probably 10 years. I don't really keep track. I think it's been 10 years because I think I got like a Facebook message about it not that long ago, saying that it's been up for this long. But I mean, horror boobs is like my all-encompassing brand. And I hate to call it a brand because that sounds so corporate, but it's the best thing I can come up with it because it's the name I use for a lot of things. For all the projects I do, I kind of use that moniker. But now I got to think about that because it's 2020 and everybody's under fire. So anything sexual gets which is funny because at the same time we're in like a sexual revolution where we're body positive and sex positive and all this, but at the same time we got to be careful, because it's because I'm a man, a white male, and I am the devil, and I am privileged, and I admit it. You know what I mean? I can admit that I am a privileged white male. I'm a very lucky person because of that. I do what I can to deal with the. I mean, at least I can verbalize that and say that. I know that things go easy for me because of how I am and the way I was born. I don't know what to say other than that. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm just trying to be real about it. It's like I can acknowledge that I have privilege. End of story. It's easier for me. I wish it wasn't. I wish the playing field was leveled out for everybody. I mean, I do. It would really make me happy. I'm not lying. I'm not bullshitting you. I support so much. I mean, the thing is, it's like, it's something I have to acknowledge, but it's something it's hard for me to be like, oh yeah, it's because I love things that are so offbeat anyway, and things that are, not part of my culture. It's my favorite. My favorite stuff is made by women or gay people or minorities. Like all of my favorite art is made by marginalized groups, and I've always supported it, and I've always kind of made sure to try to spread the love of it and speak its praises, and that's the best I can do.
I think anyone that's spoken to you for a minute realizes that your transparency. So thanks for the disclaimer, but we're well aware.
I just feel like it's nowadays you have to say it. It's like, right. Because even my girlfriend now, she knew of what horror boobs was, and she was like, what is this, like some kind of bro-y like thing? And it can totally be interpreted that way, but if you meet me and talk to me, you know that I'm just a weirdo and I'm a supporter of weird stuff and I love it. And horror boobs, it wasn't even my name. I didn't even come up with it. Chai came up with it. And that's part of the history of horror boobs is, what had happened was it was a small group of people. It was me, my girlfriend at the time, Kat, and Chai, and my roommate, Jeff, and his girlfriend at the time, Amanda, and we would get together, we would hunt for VHS tapes, and we would watch movies, and it was our own little crew that we would invite other people every once in a while to watch movies with us, and we were the Horror Boobs crew, and that's what we called it. That was pretty much it. It was our crew. It was just a thing because Chai would yell horror boobs when we saw boobs on the screen, and then it just took and became our little name for our clique that we had there, and then it expanded into doing stuff. We started the blog and the Facebook page, and I started making these mixtapes, and we started hosting events under that name. And then it snowballed into becoming this releasing company where I started re-releasing movies on VHS, which I'm still doing because VHS is so, it's so loved. And even now more. That's the other thing. I produced the Adjust Your Tracking documentary under the Horror Boobs moniker, which was, huge. It played all over the country, and it's streaming on the Shout Factory, app, and, came out on DVD and at VHS, and spawned a whole world of collectors that weren't there now. It gave people the blueprints of how to become a VHS cult cinema collector, and which is awesome. And I said it also sucks, because now there's so many people collecting. It's harder to get those rare tapes if there's more people collecting it, and then the prices go up. So, I'm lucky. I've been collecting for many years. I've gotten I got a lot of the rare tapes that people love and want when they were, worthless. So I don't have the problem that the modern collector has, where there are no places to find tapes, and they can only buy them on eBay or Facebook pages or Instagram pages and spend lots of money. But whatever, that's cool. It's all part of the growing of the popularity of this hobby and culture, I guess.
I think it was inevitable, but Adjust Your Tracking definitely maybe influenced somewhat.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not patting myself on the back. Some days I wake up and I really regret it, but yeah, it was great to be able to do that. And honestly, the reason I got behind that documentary and was doing it was because I was interested in why we do it. I questioned that myself. I was like, why are we obsessed with this? Why do we do this? Why are we collecting this? And I'm not 100% sure, I got an answer after doing it, but I still enjoyed doing the journey and meeting all these people and talking to people and hearing their stories. But I don't know if it really answered my personal question as to why we do that. But the documentary is great. It's a lot of fun. I think it's really.
I agree. I was because it's almost 10 years old, isn't it?
I hope not.
Oh wait, no. It's like 6 or 7.
Seven maybe. Yeah. 7, I think. Which is almost 10 years old when you think about it. Yeah.
I picked up my copy from Diabolic DVD, and I loved every moment of it. Cool. Even all of the extra features.
There's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of times, let's say friends who are normies come home and they see my collection and they're like, they don't understand why I do what I do. So I'm like, do you got an hour and a half? Let's watch Adjust Your Tracking.
Wow. That means a lot to me, man. Yeah, man. It's cool because you're like, I guess it does help explain to somebody who doesn't get it why we do it, because it exposes a lot of the information that we hold dear to our heart. Like, it's a matter of film preservation. When you break it down, this is something I've said to people. There's important places like Vinegar Syndrome who are known for film preservation. They're finding these film prints, they're scanning them, and it's like, so a movie's shot on film, and these prints are important. So people want to save these prints because, maybe the negatives are gone. So you need at least a print to be able to scan it, to preserve it. And that's the format that these movies that were shot on film were then distributed to theaters on 35 millimeter prints to be screened. Now, the next step down is this world of video, where if a movie is shot on video and then self-released on video, it's the equivalent to a 35 millimeter print, to something that was shot on film. It's the same exact thing. It's a different format, but it's the same mentality. So I want to save those movies because there is no 35 millimeter print. There is no negative to preserve because this movie was not shot on film and never put on 35 millimeter to be screened in theaters. They were sent straight to video stores or sent to people's houses through mail order catalogs. So that is in my opinion, those tapes are the equivalent to 35 millimeter of that format. So it shouldn't be hard for people to understand that want to preserve film to want to preserve tapes, because these are the only format that they came out on. And I'm going to drop a little bit right on you right now, which is hot, popular information, is I was talking about that Friday the 13th box set that just came out from Shaft Factory, the Blu Ray. Not in a million years would I ever thought I was going to be buying another box set of Friday the 13th. Not something that I'm super in love with, but they found the cut gore footage from Friday Part 2 on a VHS tape that one of the special effects artists still had in his collection. That was so old that they literally had to bake the tape to get it loose so that it could actually play, and that they could scan it. But it's the same mentality. It's like tapes are important because they have information that needs to be preserved. That's what it comes down to for me, like this whole video collecting thing. Of course, I mean, fuck, dude. I was like, obviously this shit is super cool looking too. You know what I mean? It's like, they just look dope. It's like compared to a DVD, which has like a Photoshop cover and it's been disrespected in some way. It's like, look, I'm not going to get them both, but it's like Trick or Treat. You know what I mean? The movie Trick or Treat, Sammy Kerr.
Sure.
The DVD's got photoshopped faces of fucking Ozzy and Gene Simmons, but the tape looks dope. You know what I mean? It's like that burning pumpkin
guy with the guitar.
Yeah. So it's like, of course these tapes look cooler, but that's what Blu-ray's doing, man. They're realizing that art is important. So, but they also have information on them that might only be on these tapes. So that's what's important to me about preserving them. All right, so this is cool because this is going to segue into some stuff that I've been talking about recently and I'm really interested in expressing. I've been talking with friends like you about this, and when it froze, I took a bite of my bagel, so that worked out. So I want to preserve these movies, these shot-on-video movies, these weird direct-to-video movies that people didn't care about for a long time. And I get it, like when you're new to this and you're watching movies, even I did this when I started getting into this stuff. Like I remember, being a voracious, movie fan and learning about all these movies and exposing myself to stuff I've never seen before. And then you do find these shot on video movies in this world. I remember seeing Cannibal Hookers for the first time and being like, this is such dog shit. It's like, this movie sucks. It's like, how is this on the shelf next to, Terror Vision and these other like awesome movies? Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, but now obviously like I fucking love that stuff, because after you see, after you see Terror Vision and after you see Blood Diner and all these obscure cult movies, you have to be exposed to more of it. You want to find more. And then like, I remember, I loved Sorority Girls in the Slimeball Ballorama, and then finding out that there was a sequel called Sorority Girls in the Dance of Dawn of Death. I thought it was a sequel just based on the name, but it's not. It's this shot on video Todd Sheets movie that was worse than Cannibal Hookers. and it was the first Todd Sheets movie I ever seen, and it was one of the worst movies I've ever watched in my entire life. But hey, how you doing?
Someone waving at me?
Yeah, someone's waving at you. Ah, there you go. Hi. So she didn't have any pants on. Did you see?
I did not see that.
I did. So yeah, there's and then but then being exposed to these weird movies is just like, then you start seeing more of them, going deeper down the rabbit hole, and there are ones that are amazing. There are these shot on video movies, direct to video movies that are mind blowers, that like are better than these movies that are shot in film, in my opinion, some of them. But the point I'm trying to get to is, so the horror genre has been like, fan base has been changed, flipped on its head from 20 years ago, where what was really important then is not the same as now. So like 15 years ago, and DVD comes out, and people are getting to see Fulci films and Argento films for the first time, because they've never been available other than the videotape, which is kind of like, maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't. And it wasn't so much a thing to own. Videotapes weren't so much a thing to own, where DVDs were. So people, cared about seeing these movies, like, and having a different kind of intellectual kind of take on them in a way. You had your video watchdog Tim Lucas types that were talking about like cut footage that you didn't get to see on the videotape. So, companies like Anchor Bay were releasing these movies uncut for the very first time here in America. A lot of the Fulci stuff that was completely, cut on video when they were originally released. So that was what mattered. This kind of like, high-end cultured kind of take on this stuff, which is funny in my opinion, because now things have changed so much, because horror is so much more acceptable now. And at that point, it was still kind of marginalized, and it was for nerds and people that had to talk about aspect ratios and, stuff like that. Not that those people aren't still here now, but the genre has expanded so much to the Freddy, Jason, Chucky crowd, which is fine, because I love Freddy, Jason, and Chucky. As I said again, not my favorites, but I love them. I love that stuff. But now you've got the Monster Mania convention crowd, which is your Freddy, Jason crowd, and it's they don't know, they don't care about, they didn't. It makes no difference to them that this movie was uncut, that it was never released in an uncut format. They just want to see something cool. And that's the modern horror fan, the Fright Rags t-shirt wearing horror fan. They want a cool movie that'll be a cool image on a t-shirt. Nothing wrong with that. It's okay to be a fan the way you want to be a fan. I'm not a snob about it.
But it's so interesting to hear your point of view, because you're a New Yorker, you work at Forbidden Planet, you're surrounded by these awesome conventions, these Monster Manias. And here, where I live, Madrid, Spain,
Right.
We are so far behind on everything that's going on and at places like this. So I'm tuning into everything you're saying is very interesting to me.
Okay, so it's a different. So you don't have this experience so much.
I don't like you
It's
know
not-
how not at all because I'm even when I was living in New York 10 years ago, I remember it was hard hunting for VHS because it was all gone.
Yeah.
Here, there's still it's still easy access to get like VHS.
That's cool. See, I always wonder about that in different countries that are, you know, would you be able to find really cool stuff? Which it's awesome to hear that it is, you know, because it's a wholly different mindset, you know. It's just a function, you know.
For sure.
So the Freddy, Jason, Chucky crowd. My point here to get to is that they don't give a fuck. They don't care about the fact that this movie was never released here, cut. They just want to see something cool. So that's why this shot on video stuff that was kind of laughed at, it's starting to get a resurgence, and these lost films are starting to kind of break in to the mainstream a little. Like things like Blood Diner, I would never have thought it would have such a big crowd and such a huge fan base as it does, or a movie like Terror Vision. You know, these are starting to get these huge fan bases to the point that the next eventual like step are going to be these really obscure shot on video movies and these regional films, because we're running out of stuff. We're running out of stuff to show people. So and that's why Leif Jonker's Darkness is going to come out on Blu Ray from Arrow, which you'd never believe in my life. That's, you know, Darkness is shot on film, but a regional film, not a major Hollywood. It's like an 8mm, I believe, or 16mm, or maybe blown up to.
Dude, you got cut off. What movie? What movie did
Darkness.
you say?
Darkness, Leif Jonker's Darkness, which you gave me a tape of.
Exactly. Yes, you got the Spanish release of Darkness.
Which you gave me the Spanish release.
I had no idea Arrow was gonna re-release it.
They're putting it out on Blu-ray.
Wow.
That was one of the tapes that you gave. What a gift that was, because that movie is amazing. And to get the Spanish release of that, I'd never seen it in my life, which is so cool, because that was one of the first questions you asked me and I never answered, is what were the tapes that you gave me? So now an hour and a half later, I'm going to answer it. So I remember you gave me Dead Alive under the Brain Damage title and Darkness.
Brain Dead title.
Brain Dead. What did I say?
Brain Damage.
Brain Damage. Oh, Jesus. Okay, whole nother movie. Yeah, under the Brain Dead title, and Leif Jonker's Darkness on Spanish VHS, which is so cool, because that ties into what we're saying now, where people don't care. People are looking at all of it the same. You know, there's no discrimination like I did when I saw Cannibal Hookers, where I was just used to seeing these like normal shot on film movies, and I saw that and I fucking was like, what is this garbage? And it took me a while to warm up to it, and once I did warm up to it, now it's my favorite stuff. Where people don't have that kind of like attitude anymore. So it's literally what people are getting. The collector market is being dictated by these releases. So if you're a horror movie fan and you're buying Arrow videos and you're just collecting Arrow videos and you see this movie Darkness, you're going to buy Darkness and you're going to love it because that movie's awesome and there's so much cool effects in it, and it's going to sit on the shelf next to Reanimator, where, you know, back in the day, it's like the video store where Darkness and Reanimator sat next to each other on the shelves, but you take home the two of them and you're going to be like, yeah, Reanimator. But like, that's a real movie. This is like people in their backyard making this Darkness movie. What is that? But now it's changed, because the Freddy, Jason, Chucky people don't have that I don't want to say they don't have sophistication, but they just don't have that chip on their shoulder of being the horror fan for fucking 30 years and not having Fulci movies uncut. So it's like, I like it, you know, as goofy as it can be, you know, as goofy as your neon green Return of the Living Dead Fright Rag shirt is, or your, you know what I mean, like enamel pin culture, everything's an enamel pin or whatever, you know, as ridiculous as it is, it's also, I also really appreciate the fact that now we're at a point where these movies are looked at in the same light, just because if they're cool, they're cool. So, you know, Chucky is as cool as Critters, is as cool as Cannibal Holocaust, is as cool as Todd Sheets' Goblin. So all these things are just cool. So if they're cool, they're cool. It doesn't matter if it's shot on film, doesn't matter if it's shot on video. It's if it's good, it's good. You know, people are going to appreciate it. And then now I'm going to segue into the next thing that you were gonna ask me right off the bat, is what is my little secret project that I've been working on over the last year and a half or whatever.
Wow.
Is I've been working with a close friend of mine, Rob from Wild Eye, who I license a lot of movies off of to put on VHS. We've had a relationship for many years now, where I've put out tons of his movies, like, you know, The Velocipaster, which was huge, and put that out on tape, and stuff like, I'm looking up on the wall right now to see, you know, you know, but I've been putting out a lot of his movies on tape for a while. And like we did Driller, a sexual thriller, the
Fuck yeah, the
Michael
Jackson
porno parody, which is still one of my favorite releases of all time. You know, I licensed that from him, and together we are starting a new label that will be releasing a lot of lost regional films and shot on video films on Blu Ray, loved by the collector and VHS community, and some that are super obscure that I personally love more than anything in the world, that I'm so happy to unleash on the public. And I'm really stoked, and they're going to come out on Blu Ray in killer packages. We're going to do the whole rigmarole. We're doing new artwork and new commentaries and new special features. And for some stuff, there's never been commentaries or special features. We're creating everything from scratch because some of these movies have never been on digital format ever.
Wow, dude. So it's like, it's the next logical step. Horror Boobs being more of a DIY thing. This is the next.
But as I said, 2020, it's not going to be Horror Boobs. It's a whole new entity.
Okay, so Horror Boobs will be gone.
No, Horror Boobs is still going to be around.
Okay.
I'm still going to release tapes on Horror Boobs. You know, still going to do screenings under the Horror Boobs title. But this is a whole new project that's going to be a new distribution company releasing a lot of great cult shot on video movies. And I hope that, you know, the same people that buy Vinegar Syndrome and Arrow take to it and understand that we're going to show love to these movies the same way those people show love to things like Reanimator.
Dude, 2 questions. Can you reveal the name of this distribution company, and can you reveal some of the titles?
All right. I've never told anybody. Nobody knows this. So this is the first time. The company is called Visual Vengeance.
Visual
Vengeance. The
Nice.
company is called Visual Vengeance. And okay, I could tell you, it's crazy. We got like 100 movies or more lined up.
Wow.
Yeah, we have an insane amount of movies that are in this catalog. And that's what I'm saying. Like, we've been working on this for a little bit and not a single release out yet, but 2021 is the plan for everything to start coming out. And I'll tell you 2 that are obvious, and then I'll slip one in that hopefully nobody knows about yet. So one of them that we're releasing, which will probably be the first title in the series, is Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder in Hell. which Wild Eye released a trailer for it a couple months ago. Didn't mention Visual Vengeance, but just put the trailer out saying that's coming out because Visual Vengeance is going to be a subdivision of Wild Eye, because Wild Eye has already been, established, and people know it, and people love it, and people, and this fits right in line with it. So so they announced Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder in Hell as a Wild Eye with a Wild Eye trailer, but it's actually going to be the first title of the Visual Vengeance line. Do you know anything about this?
I have no idea about this, dude.
Go watch the trailer. It's going to blow your mind. It's a Japanese homage to Evil Dead, which took like 10 years to make. It's shot on, I'm probably going to blow this, but I want to say shot on 8mm or 16mm or something like that. It's got everything that the Evil Dead has. Stop motion. Like lots of gore, like all the stop motion homages. It's literally the plot of Evil Dead, but instead of Ash, it's this Japanese bodybuilder.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's got...
Sorry, go ahead. And it's got...
No. Oh, I mean, it's got that kind of Japanese horror movie sensibility that's got a little bit of absurdity to it, and it was, I'm probably messing up the dates, but it was started in the early 2000s and finished, I think, in 2008 or something like that. Or maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it was a little earlier. Maybe it's 90s into the early 2000s. I don't have my dates correct, and I don't have my cards with me. But it's awesome. It's so much fun. And it's literally got everything that the Evil Dead has in it. It's an homage. It's a love letter to the Evil Dead. So it's a mind blower of a title. Once you see it, you're gonna lose your mind. And that's the first release.
What about putting together extra features for this?
This one's a little harder because there's some featurettes that we had to get translated and stuff like that, and we're working on a commentary right now, but we're not going to have a commentary by the creators of the film. What we're doing with some stuff is thinking outside of the box, and a lot of companies are doing this, for movies that don't have anybody still around or anybody available attached to the film. A lot of companies use historians or people that are big fans of the movie to do commentaries. And we're going to have some surprise guests do commentaries. Some people, and not just super fans, you know what I mean? I'm trying to dig a little deeper and trying to maybe do things a little different.
Okay, cool.
And have some people from the genre, do commentary tracks that maybe not have anything to do with the film, but would still make for an interesting commentary.
Very awesome.
Yeah, so that's part of that.
What about a second title?
Okay, a second title we'll talk about, which you already mentioned, is Feeders.
Ooh.
So that was released on DVD. That's a huge release. I mean, that came out on VHS and Blockbuster. It came out right around the time of Independence Day. Blockbuster bought up tons and tons of those. I mean, that was a movie that was in lots of Blockbusters, not even your mom and pop shop. That's a SOV movie that broke through. See, that was an SOV movie that I saw and I liked early on, because it's a lot of fun, and it's just like, it plays really well, and the characters are interesting, and it's funny. It's not just, girls in their bikinis in somebody's basement. It's a well-crafted movie, even though it's a shot on video, no budget film. The Polonia brothers and John McBride had a lot of passion for this stuff, and that's why their movies stand a little bit, in my opinion, a step above the rest of them, because they had a real passion for this stuff. So Feeders, I just released in a special edition VHS.
Super cool packaging.
yeah, I found those hard case shells, and I was like, got to do something interesting. And Feeders was on the docket to come out, so we have the rights to it. So I was like, make it look like a government, suitcase kind of, or a government package of something that's like you shouldn't have. And we put that Feeders in there with like the redacted FBI documents and property of the US government on it. And it's like in this like suitcase kind of shell. But Feeders is going to get an all new packaging, Blu Ray. It'll probably be a double feature of both movies on, Feeders and Feeders 2 will probably be on the set. I don't see why not.
Nice.
That's the great thing about Blu Ray is that, it has a lot of, you can store a lot on them. So you can do these really cool double features on them. And people won't feel like they're getting ripped off for buying a Blu-ray of an SOV movie because it's going to be packed out. That was something that we talked about for a minute, and we were like, these Blu-ray is for quality. Do we need to put it on Blu-ray? Should it just be a DVD? But it should be on Blu-ray because that's now the standard. It's not about. I don't think it's so much about the quality anymore. Like I was saying earlier, how 20 years ago people, were quality obsessed. And now when Blu-ray first came out, I feel like they were quality obsessed too. But now it's not even about that. It's just the standard. You just buy stuff on Blu-ray. So it's not about DVD quality.
I think it's a smart
choice.
it's just.
I think it is. I think just going with the standard is the way to go. I think that's the way to do it.
Were you going to reveal a third release?
All right, I'll reveal a title to you that hasn't been announced yet. Let's see, which one should I mention?
Let me ask you this. Out of those 100 titles,
okay,
are there any Spanish films in
there? I don't think so. Do you have something that's...
Oh, no. I was just going to tell you, I don't know if you know what I do for a living. I'm a videographer, so I film stuff. So if you're ever in the need for extra features.
I knew you. I knew you did stuff. I knew you were able to do stuff like that because you shot that interview, and I know that you come from a film background, so I obviously know that. But if we did, 100%, I have an in. I'm not stupid. We did. Whatchamacallit? I hope I'm right in this.
Okay.
I released that movie, Erotic Nights of the Living Dead,
Yes.
which was a Spanish film.
There you go.
That was wild. I put that out on DVD. And you know what? If this label was a thing, that might have been within this realm of these kind of titles, even though it's a little newer.
Okay.
But I mean, it fits in with the feel of this type of stuff, and that movie is pretty ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, and that Lewis, I think, from Massacre, I believe, released some movies that was from that crew of people. I think it was called Grave Robbers.
I'm not aware of this one.
I could be wrong. I could be saying the wrong thing, which is not impossible. But I mean, there's nothing at the moment. But another thing is, if you know of independent, regional, shot on video, shot on film, whatever movies from your area that have never been here or have been here in such a small capacity. Like, I mean, that Erotic Nights of the Living Dead was released here already on DVD under its original title, which I'm forgetting at the moment, but such limited distribution, nobody knew what that was, but
I'll definitely let you know.
Let me know.
Yeah, because I know you're very interested.
I love independent stuff, and I love homemade stuff. So if there's something you got, man, let me know. That's the other thing, man. It's community. That's part of this, is a community. Starting a community with this label too, because we are also, not just, like I said, I want to bring people from the community into this and their opinions. So like other people that I'm friends with who are writers and fans of this stuff. I want to get them involved, get their perspective, because one thing I really do hate is the same voices over and over again. It gets old. You know, if the Blu-ray company was me doing liner notes and commentaries on every release, I would hate it myself, and I'm me. It's just I don't want to see the same opinion over and over again. It's like, I'm just a fan. Like I said, I'm not an authority. You know, I don't need to be out there, you know, patting myself on the back for doing this and showing off or whatever. Like, I want to get other people involved. I want other people's opinions.
Community. That's the community aspect. I think that's a smart choice as well.
Yeah. All right, and then I'll let you know. Okay, this is I'll tell you one that nobody knows about that I'm pretty excited about. It's a movie called The Necrophiles. Are you familiar with that?
I am not familiar with this.
It's a shot-on-video movie by Matt Desiderio. He made Back from Hell, which Massacre Video released, and he made a movie called Legion of the Night, and he made this movie Necrophiles. It's a shot-on-video movie from the 90s, which is so through the roof insane. It's got a zombie with an 8-foot boner. You know what I mean? It's that type of movie.
Okay.
Some really wild shit in it, and you know, I'm super stoked to be able to bring this out there to the world, because it's one that I really enjoy. Did I lose you or no?
No, I got you. I'm just like 8-foot dick. What?
Yeah, exactly. It's a crazy fun one, and I'm really stoked to be able to help get this out in the world in a larger capacity. I don't believe it's ever been on a DVD before, not that I'm aware of. You know, maybe.
Is this an American film?
American film. He's a Midwest guy. I think he might be Michigan or somewhere like that.
What about putting extras for the Necrophiles? Has this been out?
He has a bunch of stuff that we're going to use. You know, that's the thing. It's like sometimes these people have stuff in the waiting that, you know, for these things, like, and then sometimes we got to do them ourselves. You know, there's a couple that I'm super excited on. I'm not going to say what they are, but they're going to be part of the early launch titles. But, you know, a hint is that I'll be going down to Texas to work on special features with the creators of these films. So if you can put the puzzle pieces together, and you've been following what I've been doing with my life, and you know what we're talking about, it's not going to be that hard to figure out.
Shit, I don't. I'll have to go through your social media.
Quite loved regional Texas films that have never been officially released before are going to come out, and I can't wait. I mean,
nice.
These are going to be a big deal. I'm
excited. When it comes to a quantity, like, how many are you guys going to press of each film?
Okay, that's interesting. So I'm pretty sure we're going to use we're going to do, which collectors love, slipcases, right? Everybody loves a slipcase for some reason nowadays, you know. So we're going to go with it. I give the people what they want, is my opinion. So
I love me some slipcases.
Right? They're cool, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to do limited edition slipcases for these movies, and that'll have a determined quantity. So, you know, whether it's 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, depending on the movie. And then there'll be non-slipcase editions after that. You know, I don't want to, it's not going to, it all has to do with how, you know, what the license deal is. Like, you know, are we licensing it for a certain amount of years, or, a certain amount of units. Every deal is different with every filmmaker. But so if we license it for a certain amount of years, there'll be a limited edition, slipcase edition. And then, the point is really to get these movies seen. And, not about collectability, but we want that aspect because people love that, so there'll be collectible editions of this. But really, I want to get these into distribution. So, so if there's another store like Forbidden Planet out there in the country, which there are other independent stores across the country that, carry these weirdo movies, in small capacities, just like we do. We're not a huge big box store. We only buy a couple copies and keep restocking them, It's not a million copies out the gate like Tower Records or Virgin Megastore used to do, or even Best Buy. Forget it. You were able to buy Slime City at Best Buy. They bought thousands of copies of this. So, but that's not going to happen. We still want non-slipcase editions going into distribution so people can get it in stores, or when the slipcase editions sell out, people can still buy it on Amazon and whatnot. So I don't know if there's going to be, not every release is going to have a specific quantity.
Okay, gotcha. So you heard it here first. Wild Eye, Horror Boobs, Visual Vengeance. Fuck yeah, dude. Super excited to hear this.
I'm super hyped to be able to talk about this because I really haven't talked about it with anyone. So I'm happy to be able to tell you, you get it. You appreciate that.
Fuck yeah.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
So there's 3 things I want to cover.
Okay.
Before we go. Okay. How's that bagel?
Delicious. It's only 2 hours. It's only 2 hours old now.
So I want to know, because last time I saw you, I don't know if you can unveil this, but you talked to me about you were dabbling with Frank Henenlotter, doing something at the time.
What you are probably talking about is Frank's movie that we were in, maybe.
That sounds right.
Which is The Art Thieves, which was filmed under the name The Art Thieves, and I think it was then finished. The title was called Chasing Banksy, as I think is how it's on IMDb. Which is an honor. It was just an honor for me. I got to be an extra in a Frank Henenlotter movie. Frank Henenlotter is one of my favorite directors of all time. His movies are so important to me. Frankenhooker is one of my all-time favorites. Basket Case is another one of those movies that when you see it for the first time, it'll change your life. You haven't seen anything else like it.
It was a big game changer for me, that one.
Yeah. These movies are Frankenhooker is more in tune with what I like because it's so absurd and it's got a lot of humor to it. But Basket Case has a lot of humor in it too, but it doesn't wear the humor on its sleeve like Frankenhooker does. It's more subtle, or it's sicker. The humor is sicker, where people could maybe miss the joke and be disturbed a little. But especially because it's much rawer looking, it's much more independent looking.
Dude,
and Frankenhooker.
Sorry.
Yeah,
no, go ahead.
Frankenhooker's a little. It's slick. It's sleeker. You know what I mean? It's a bigger budget film.
I think I'd go for Brain Damage out of his filmography. I'd say.
Oh, okay.
I also really like Bad Biology as well.
Totally underrated.
Yeah.
So underrated, man. Like that movie, and that was like a big deal when Bad Biology got announced. It was such a big thing for me because that was another one. I'd never met Frank before. I never talked to him, and he hadn't made a movie for so many years. Never thought I would ever get to meet him or talk to him. And then Bad Biology was announced, finished, and he started doing some screenings. And I went to a screening that he was at, sat in the front row. And Mike Hunchback was actually hosting it. It was one of the first times I actually met Mike. So this is, going back almost 10 years now. Bad Biology came out. and I sat in the front row and I was asking questions because Mike has a very different way of hosting a movie. And we've hosted a lot of movies together, and he has a very different way of hosting a movie than I do. I am very selfish when it comes to Q&As, and I will ask my questions for an hour before I open up to the audience. And Michael asks like one question and then goes straight to the audience and then think he's going to be able to come back to his own questions. So he was hosting this screening. He opens it up to the audience right away. And I started asking questions, and he's like, oh, that was on my list of questions to ask. And I asked another question. Wait, that was also on my list of questions to ask. So like I knew that I was very in tune with this guy because we were on the same page from that very first time.
Was this the screening where, because I'm pretty sure I was at the screening where they got Mike Diana to do the poster for that screening?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're
I
right.
was
It
there.
was at Anthology Film Archives.
Exactly. And I remember asking, because I had never met Mike Hunchback. I know he was putting it on. I just really wanted a copy of that poster. And he didn't know me, and he was super nice about it. And he was just running back and forth trying to get me a poster while he was super busy with probably like 6 other things.
Yeah.
He never got me that poster, but he definitely tried.
Well, you should have went to Kim's. The whole deal was if you go to Kim's, they were at Kim's Video.
I eventually did get the poster though.
You did,
but not there.
Okay.
Not at, sorry.
How did you get it?
They had posters at Kim's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got it at Kim's.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That was the thing. I ran to Kim's and got the poster. Oh, dude. No, I'm thinking of 2 different things. No. I'm thinking of, I'm wrong. The poster I'm talking about was the Mike Diana poster that they got made for the Herschel Gordon Lewis screenings they did at Anthology. I know the poster you're talking about for the Bad Biology screening, which I don't think they were giving away posters. I guess you got one somehow. I don't even have that poster. I know the artwork you're talking about. I know that completely. I'm talking about something completely different. I'm wrong. But all in all, Mike is a great dude. That's what it comes down to.
There you go. This is a perfect segue to my other question, which is I want to know your involvement with Mike Diana and Boiled Angels. I wasn't aware you were good friends with him, and he gave you an awesome TV.
Hunchback. Well, it was not Mike Diana gave me the TV. Hunchback gave me the TV.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's okay. But it's all the same world because that's the whole... The story is that Hunchback and Diana are friends.
Okay.
And so Mike got Diana to do that poster for the Bad Biology screening. And I think that was the first time, I think that's the first time they might have all met. Diana, Frank, Hunchback maybe knew Diana before that, but I think that, you know what I mean? So they were friends before that, but then they met, I think that's the first time they met Frank. And they all hit it off. And then they all became friends. And then Frank finds out about, the thing that happened to Diana, about how he got arrested for obscenity in art, which is absurd. And was like, that should be a documentary. And Mike was already in the works on that. He was already, wanting to do a documentary about that. So they all became friends. Frank found out about what happened to Diana, and they, they decide to make a documentary about it, about the fact that Mike Diana is the only person to ever get convicted for obscenity in art, ever, which is insane. Especially considering if you've ever seen Mike Diana's art, it's to arrest somebody over this is a joke. You know what I mean? It's first off, it's drawing. It's a drawing on a piece of paper. It's like there are movies in the world that are much worse, and you know what I mean. It's like, and that, stuff like that they've tried to do stuff like that about movies, like the guinea pig movies, in Charlie Sheen and all that stuff. So, it just does show that people are pretty stupid. But, it happened in Florida. um, yeah, so then they go to make a documentary about it, and they were doing a Kickstarter, and they needed help with promoting the Kickstarter. And it just wasn't happening. They just had, I don't know what the thing was. They wanted to do an event to help promote it, and they asked me to help somehow with this event, this promotional event. And then Mike asked me, because Mike was producing the movie, how can I help with this? And it was my idea, and I regretted it immediately. And I just, because I said, you know what? You've taken forever promoting your Kickstarter. It's almost over. It's going to be over in a week or whatever, however long it was up, and you didn't get anything happening. You should do a telethon, and like the old Jerry Lewis telethons, live, because Facebook Live is a brand new thing.
Mhm.
And you could use Facebook Live to do a live telethon that would coincide with the ending of the Kickstarter, and make it like a crazy old time telethon. And somehow Mike was like, "Oh, that's great. So we have to host it. You have to host it with me." And that was not the intention. Not that of course I love doing this type of stuff and working with these guys, but I was like, how is this now my responsibility? But anyway,
super overwhelming. That's why.
Yeah. I mean, but it was my idea, and and it was a lot of fun. And you can still search it. It might be on the Horror Boobs page or Hunchbacks page. I can't remember, but yeah, the 2-hour live telethon where me and Mike hosted it, and we're singing and doing fucking skits, and Frank is there, and Mike Diane is there, and there's all types of people coming off the street, and like and that was my involvement. That was it. Like,
Okay.
I just helped with
The final step in making this a reality.
Get the fuck out of here. I just helped promote the begging of money. That's literally which the Kickstarter, I don't even want to get into it. But yeah, I mean, the movie is amazing. If you have you seen it yet?
It's fucking great, dude.
It's really good. I mean, I seen a bunch of different cuts of it as it was going along, and it just kept getting better and better. Like, because it played a bunch of different festivals, and I went to a bunch of them, and just because I wanted to support my buds, and the more they cut it and the more they worked on it, the better it got. And it's such a great story. I got to become friends with Mike Diana because of this, and he's like an alien. He's like from another world. He's such a weirdo and such a funny guy, and he's such a nice guy. So what happened to him is crazy, because he's such a sweetheart, such a soft-spoken guy. But it just was an honor for me to be able to work on a project with these people that I love, like Frank, whose movies I love, and Mike, whose art is so cool, and Hunchback, who's one of my best friends. To get to work with these guys and help them with their projects, even in the smallest capacity, it's like an honor to me, man. Because it's like we were saying earlier, as a fan, it's sometimes you got to do more. It's a point in your life. Another guy once told me this guy, Aaron Christensen, he's a writer. He said, at some point you have to stop being just the fan and contribute to the culture. If you really do love it, there's a point where you realize just absorbing it isn't enough, and you want to give back to what has given to you. So that's why I started doing all this stuff, because I wanted to give back to this community, to this culture that has given so much happiness to me over the years, and how I felt like I was part of something because of it, and now I'm really feeling like I'm part of something because I'm contributing to it and getting to work with these people that I never thought I would ever in my life and get to call them friends is like, you're right. You do this stuff because you're like, it would blow your past, your teenage mind, you know,
Exactly.
if you go
Yeah.
back, and if I told myself, 20 years ago that, these are the things I was going to do, that these people like, if I told myself 25 years ago that, if I needed help trying to figure out what is the best non-region Blu-ray player, if I to think that I was going to ask Frank his opinion, you know what I mean? It's like I would never have believed it,
Wow.
But it's stuff like, there's these people in the community, especially in New York, that are so great and so open, and New York is a great place for that type of stuff. I don't know, maybe LA is like that too. I've met people out in LA that are really cool and have been very helpful to projects that I've worked on. But New York has got such a weird, just like a different feel to it,
For
and
sure. Dude.
Trauma and Lloyd always have been great supporters of things I've done over the years,
I lost touch with a couple of years ago with Roy from
Oh, yeah.
Have
On purpose? I'm just
no.
kidding. No, I'm just kidding. Roy is cool. Like, I saw him last year at we did a signing for the new issue of Deep Red, which had a huge street trash feature, and Dennis Daniel, who's one of the infamous Deep Red writers from back in the day, invited, said, "Hey, I'm going to invite my friend Roy." I said, "I love Roy. Tell him to come down. I would love for him to be a part of it." And I've had him at the store a couple of times over the years, and I always think he's such a really nice, cordial guy. So full of information, so cool. Beyond that, the guy dated Barbara Steele. How could you not respect that? But
and he's so well spoken, and because I helped him put together the finishing touches to the definitive Document of the Dead.
Amazing.
And and he had the greatest stories about movie making. So before we leave, let's talk about Eat Lead.
Okay, cool.
How long has I want to know, because I wasn't aware of Eat Lead until recently.
It's a brand new band. I mean, it's honestly, it is like, it's hard to keep calling it a brand new band, but it kind of is. It's already now like a couple of years old, but we haven't really done a lot. We haven't even recorded a full length record yet. It's a band, very a mix of the types of things I love, thrash metal and hardcore, crossover music, whatever you want to call it. A lot of times when we first started, I was describing it as a mix between Dead Kennedys and Voivod. But it's not even, it's like its own thing, really. It's like that's just the thing I was saying. But I'm on vocals again, just like Vermifuge. I'm playing with the guitar player from Vermifuge, not Jeff, the other guitar player. The other one, James. James has been one of my best friends for most of my life. Amazing guitar player. He plays in a lot of bands. He plays in this band Tower, which is really cool. We've been making music together for a long time, so we decided to try to get this going. We tried to do this many years ago, and it just didn't gel with the people we had, but we started it up again just a couple years ago. Now we have Chris Polino on bass, who is one of James's oldest friends, just like me. And then we had a guy named Joe Moore on drums when we first started, and he was a monster. He played drums he's been playing drums for local bands for years, and indie thrash bands for many years. And we brought him in, recorded a 6-song demo, which is you can hear on our Bandcamp.
Sounds sick. Yeah, it does remind me of Vermifuge, which
Yeah,
is a
it's
very good thing.
yeah, it's very much in the vein of that. You know, it might be a little. Vermifuge like started going into a very rock and roll metal sound towards the end of what we were doing. You know, the songs were getting up there in the 4-minute range and like having a lot of rock and roll riffs to it. And this is kind of the opposite. These songs are getting shorter and having much more of a hardcore, you know, more in
Stripped
tune
down.
with, yeah, you know, still has crazy solos and really crazy riffage, but it's more, you know, instead of going into that rock and roll kind of world that we were, Vermifuge was going, this is like thrash metal going more into the hardcore world. And right now our drummer, we have Steve Gallo, who has been playing in New York hardcore bands for, you know, the last 20 years. He played in Agnostic Front and On the Rise. So he brings a really, you know, good, solid hardcore kind of backbone to it. Both Chris and James played in Deceased.
Nice.
And you know, it's a melding of what we love. You know, we're all big fans of the thrash crossover stuff, and there's not enough bands doing that without the party vibe. You know, the party vibe
Right.
is usually what people go for, which is not something that, I mean, even Vermifuge, we got lumped into that, but it was not really our thing. We didn't have, our songs were more tongue in cheek and, you know, had these like humoristic, violent songs and not party drink beer songs, which is a lot of the thrash that is of the time now. It's like,
Right.
so, you know, it's more in tune with that. It's even, I think the subject matter is even darker now. It's, you know, it has, you know, a real kind of nasty attitude, kind of still humorous, but has a darker, even darker humor to it.
So I'm guessing this has been on hibernation during COVID, or
Been on, well, right before COVID, we started recording again. We re-recorded the first 6 songs with the new drummer, and we have 3 more songs that are going to be on it, 2 more originals and a cover. So that's going to be what I guess would be a full length that we started recording before the quarantine. Right before all this happened, like at the end of last year, we played an awesome show. We played at the Bowery Electric, opening up for Sick of It All and Agnostic Front. Sold out, amazing, great event. Had a great time. Was honored to play with those guys.
Wow.
Yeah, I shared the stage with Agnostic Front once before. I think 10 years before that. Playing guitar for a band called Sexual Suicide, but it wasn't any of my original material, so it was not. I mean, it was great. It was an honor, but it's different when you're bringing your own.
Yeah, it doesn't
your own
feel
stuff to the
as
table.
fulfilling when it's your own project.
Yeah, so to have those guys actually sit there and watch us, and you know, not just be there behind the scenes, you know, in the back hanging out, but actually come out and watch us and be like, you know.
Oh, did they give you props?
Yeah, they said some interesting stuff. Like yeah, I mean, the singer of AF, he said that, like, he told Steve, he was like, yeah, that singer of yours is pretty crazy. He's like, that guy's obviously crazy. And for him to say that about me,
What an honor,
that's
dude.
an honor, man. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, these are bands I grew up with, you know.
Yeah, dude. I think this is a great
It's the
way.
same thing like
Yeah, it's same thing as the horror thing. Yeah, as you were saying.
The horror stuff, man. It's the same thing. It's like, to get to play with these guys is an honor. I'm not looking to be the next guy. I'm not looking to, you know, reinvent the wheel musically, but just to get to, you know, do this stuff and get respect in that world. I mean, it's an honor, man. It's the same thing. I really love it.
Ever since I've left New York, I've followed what you've been doing, and it's been, I keep on seeing you stepping up your game, being involved with this awesome community. I went more for like I came back to Spain. I formed my like dream band. We're still going strong, but my real true love is horror. I just don't have lots of people to share with here. So I've been following you closely, and you've been doing awesome things. So
Well, I got to say, I thank you, and I watch what you do with your band, and I'm immensely jealous.
Wow.
Like I see these huge shows you're playing, and you get to share your music with people. It's so amazing. It really is so cool, especially for the type of music that you're playing. Like, I mean, I love that kind of like super aggressive grind, weird shit like that. It's like not a music that has like really broken through. It's still super underground, in my opinion.
I think so. I think, I mean, maybe since I'm so deep in grindcore, but no, it's really the lowest of the low.
Yeah, it's still not accepted in amongst like any other it's still like a sub genre, and to see the shows that you guys get to play is so amazing, man. It really is. I'm so stoked for whenever I see a picture of you on a huge stage. You know, it always gives me hope. You know, it's like cool that
that's just been a few times. For the most part, it's squats, DIY spots, you know, but once in a while we get lucky. We get a phone call for some reason. And I think maybe it's also a European thing. There's a lot of festivals here. So I think we're lucky in that aspect.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of festivals here, but the Flaming Lips have been playing them for the last 20 years. You know what I mean? If they're not calling Vermifuge, Beck is still headlining all the festivals around here for since the 90s. So it's like there's festivals. It's just not the same, man. It's like, I feel like you're right. Over there, they're appreciative of this type of music more than they are here in America. It's more mainstream stuff here that gets to play those types of events. But I mean, it's just so cool that you're out there doing it and you're playing this crazy. And I want to thank you again for your song. That is the 80s Horror Boob song. That is,
fuck yeah, dude.
You know, obviously, you know,
a big ass tribute to
my
us New York years in you dudes. You know?
I appreciate that so much. You know, that was so cool for that to happen.
Yeah, because I kept in touch with Chai for a bit.
Cool.
But I lost touch with him. But he did come with Anasazi to Madrid, so it was nice catching up with him for a bit.
Oh, you got to go see them there.
Oh, that's awesome. For sure,
that's
dude.
So
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I brought him some tapes and everything, you know.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So it was cool. Man. It was cool.
That is cool. Man, yeah, so you know, I appreciate I'm following what you're doing. I think you're doing some great stuff. I'm stoked that you're doing this podcast. We didn't talk about my podcast, Home Video Holocaust. I guess I'll plug that. We don't have to talk about it. It's just another podcast. There's so many of them. Not talking anything down to what you're doing, but it's like everybody's doing a podcast. My friend asked me to do it. I figured I would get in on it. Why not? We don't do it that often. It's not something that we're taking seriously. It's just the people that I met at conventions that we got together to talk movies every once in a while. It's about having fun. You know, just like everything I do, it's about enjoying myself and having a good time.
Exactly.
But if I was going to plug anything, what is it going to be? What should I plug? You know what? What should we plug? Fuck. Christ on the cross. I gotta plug something, right? That's what people do on these things.
You don't have to. I mean, since you're always involved in so many projects, I thought maybe I was leaving something out.
I'll just bring it back around. You know, if I'm gonna plug something, I'm gonna plug Sarah Guinness, and I'm gonna say get those crispy Brussels sprouts because they're delicious. Those, if you're in Brooklyn and New York, look them up.
What's the place called?
Sarah Guinness.
Sarah Guinness. Where is this in Brooklyn?
Bed-Stuy.
Bed-Stuy. All right. Are you still living in the same place?
I'm living next door.
Oh, nice.
All right. I'm on the main floor. So next time you come, you know, you'll check it out.
Fuck yeah, dude. Matt, always a pleasure.
Thank you, dude.
For me, this podcast is just an excuse to get in touch with
Dude,
old homies. Because you know, if I hit you up and I'm like, hey Matt, let's have a 2-hour phone call, you might be like, it's a bit weird.
I know.
But this is a good excuse to.
Yeah, it's a way to catch up on a lot of interesting stuff. If only they would know what we're cutting out.
Exactly.
If
they only knew.
They'll
maybe
never know.
You'll never know.
They'll never know. They'll never
Unless
know.
we like re-release this on a Blu Ray or whatever.
What up, what up, what up? That was the song Maggots off Eat Lead's EP entitled Maggots. So that was my very lengthy conversation with Matt. That was a long one. If you enjoyed, please rate, like, subscribe, share, word of mouth, you know, all that good stuff. After doing that interview, I really felt like I needed to eat a bagel, so I might just do that now. Please tune in next week or in a month or whenever for more. I don't know who's next week. Who's next? I think next week's guest is gonna be Jan from Teeth Grinder. But I have other stuff sitting in the bin, so we'll see what happens. Anyways, have a good week, have a good life, have a good month, and